Welcome to Top 30. I'm Richard Bacon.
And I'm Kristin Smith, and here are your top 30 stories in 30 minutes.
A new report shows which airlines have the most complaints, lost luggage and late flights. The numbers come from the DOT's yearly Air Travel Consumer Report. 4 out of 5 domestic flights arrived on time in 2017, but some airlines do better than others. Hawaiian Airlines came in first with over 88% of flights on time. Delta was second with 85%. Virgin America came in last with just 70%. The regional carriers, ExpressJet and SkyWest, had the highest number of lost bags. Each had over 3 per 1,000 passengers. Spirit had the fewest reports of lost baggage, but Spirit Airlines had more formal complaints than any carrier. More than 5.5 for every 100,000 people. That's more than twice the number of the carrier with the second most complaints, Frontier. Passengers of Southwest complained the least. The actual number of complaints was up from the year before, confirming what you already knew. Flying is getting worse.
Following a 4-day strike over a contract dispute, teachers and support staff in West Virginia will head back to the classroom on Thursday. Governor Jim Justice announced state personnel will receive a 3% raise, while teachers and service personnel are getting a 5% raise. And senior White House advisor Jared Kushner has lost his top secret security clearance, which means he will no longer have access to the country's most sensitive intel. The security downgrade for President Donald Trump's son-in-law is said to be part of a West Wing overhaul by Chief of Staff John Kelly. And how sweet is this? Serena Williams' husband put up 4 billboards along a California freeway with photos of her and their baby daughter Alexis, declaring Serena the greatest mama of all time. Serena responded on Instagram saying, "Literally, I'm crying. This is so sweet. I love you." I think sweet is an understatement.
Let's go to the New York Stock Exchange for our Fox Business Minute with your friend and mine, Nicole Pedalides. Nicole, I'm hearing big things from the NFL.
That's right, Richard. Papa John's is no longer the official pizza of the NFL, but it will still keep its partnerships with 22 teams and relationships with league personalities. The decision comes after the chain's CEO came under fire for blaming slumping sales on the NFL's handling of player protests. Amazon has acquired Ring for more than $1 billion. Ring is a smart home company that sells doorbells and security cameras. The move comes as the e-commerce giant looks to expand its reach in internet-connected items. The Ring deal is Amazon's second largest acquisition after Whole Foods, which was valued at $13.5 billion. Dick's is going to stop selling assault-style rifles. It will also require gun buyers to be at least 21 years old.
Nicole, I know that Walmart also stopped selling high-powered rifles in 2015. They cited low customer demand. What is Dick's reason for doing this?
Dick's CEO said the decision was inspired partly after learning that the 19-year-old Parkland High School shooter purchased a weapon at a company store.
That does seem like a good reason. Nicole on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you. Kristin, you're talking about Barbra Streisand.
Yeah, Richard, Barbra Streisand is the proud owner of not 1, but 2 cloned dogs. The 2 Coton de Tuileries puppies were cloned from Streisand's beloved Samantha, who passed away last May at the age of 14. But before Samantha died, Streisand had cells taken from her mouth and stomach and used them to clone 2 new puppies. And if you're having trouble figuring out which is which, well, you're not alone. Streisand dressed them in purple and red sweaters to tell them apart. And that's how they got their names, Miss Violet and Miss Scarlet. And as for their personalities, Streisand says they're very different from Samantha. She told Variety, "I'm waiting for them to get older so I can see if they have Samantha's brown eyes and seriousness." Of course, cloning a dog doesn't come cheap. It can cost between $50,000 and $100,000 per dog. The 2 puppies join a 3rd dog in the Streisand household, Miss Fanny. She's a distant cousin of Samantha's, and yes, named after actress Fanny Brice. Welcome back. Here's a question. What right does the government have to access your personal email? Well, this story may have you thinking about the answer to that question. Federal investigators tracking a drug suspect asked Microsoft for access to his emails. But Microsoft said no, saying the emails were stored on a server in Ireland and the U.S. doesn't have jurisdiction overseas. Well, now the U.S. Supreme Court is going to decide. So this is actually a big case here. There are 2 sides. The government is saying, hey, we need access access to these servers to essentially keep the good people safe, right? But then privacy advocates are saying if that were to happen, this case could set a precedent that anyone could get info from anywhere.
Yeah, I have absolutely no personal opinion on this story. I just don't know what the right or wrong answer is. And this is a quote. I like this quote. It's a really good quote. And Microsoft said that the company can no more be compelled to produce the evidence stored overseas than Hilton, the hotels, could be required to send a housekeeper to a hotel room in Dublin, photograph the guest papers, and email copies to Washington.
Wow, okay, that puts it in perspective a little bit.
Kind of, it's not an exact parallel, obviously.
But we can see the comparison there.
I think whatever the Supreme Court decides, especially if they go against Microsoft, will have profound consequences for an awful lot of people.
Yeah, well, a ruling is expected in June, so we'll see.
New data shows the cost of raising a child is $233,610, not including college. Chris, I mean...
Sounds pricey, a little bit.
I mean, to be clear, it's spread out over a number of years. No one's coming to you saying, can you write, oh, you've had a baby, write a check.
No, no, not at all. But, you know, it is expensive. That's nothing new. You know, kids, they require a lot from the time they come out. There's diapers and blankets and clothes and food and everything in between. But at the same time, I mean, there is a return on investment. You actually get this bundle of joy. Yeah.
Is it a joy?
Are you still waiting for the return on investment?
Yeah, still waiting. In 6 years. Maybe we should operate like a student loan system where, you know, right, you've cost me $233,000. I'm going to take a percentage of your income off as soon as you've got a job until that money's been repaid.
Well, here's a fun fact. 1 out of 3 Americans don't get enough sleep. Now, Richard, we get in here early. Well, I get in here early. You kind of trickle in a little bit later. But how do you get through the day on minimal sleep?
I've been really worried about this lately. I sleep really badly at the moment. I'm really tired. There's a lot of science now that links bad sleep to Alzheimer's. Later in life, obviously.
Alrighty, so here are some tips to get you through the day if you're a little sleepy. All right? Don't overdo the caffeine. You know, also ditch the energy drinks. Those are too much sugar.
Always.
Sit by a window because the sun's good for your, you know, everything. Don't skip meals. Don't make big decisions when you're tired. That's a big one, Richard. Also, get rid of non-priority tasks. So if they're not essential, just kick them off your list.
Here's what I do, recommended to me by a psychiatrist.
Ooh.
Revealing I see a psychiatrist.
Yes, he does.
I listen to white noise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
My children do, too.
Yeah.
Both of them.
It's very similar. I think for someone like yourself, it's very similar to sitting next to me on this table listening to me speak.
The white noise?
Yeah.
Shh. That's all I hear. Shh.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Top 30. A growing number of cities are discussing a ban on plastic straws in order to cut down on pollution. This week, the city of Malibu, California, passed a ban on plastic straws, stirrers and utensils. Many plastics manufacturers are not happy about the pressure.
Yeah, and people love their straws too, and their stirring sticks and all that.
I know.
But I think this is very important because knowledge is power, and once people realize what these straws do, when you throw them away, they end up in landfills and oceans.
Inside fish.
Right, affect marine life in a huge way.
Do you have that image of the turtle having the straw pulled out of its nose?
Yes.
But the counterpoint is, the CEO of one of the companies that makes plastic straws says making straws from biodegradable materials costs 5 to 6 times as much. So that's the, you know.
So it boils down to money, and I understand that.
It does feel like one of those things we could probably live without. Well, we can probably find a way around it.
Just like this. just drink from your cup, you know.
I drink a lot of beet juice, and it leaves me with like a little red moustache, so I kind of have to have a straw. It's kind of good that someone's trying to do something about it.
I agree. All right, a story I think a lot of parents are going to want to pay attention to. A new study found that more teens are sexting. 1 in 4 teenagers say they've gotten a sexually explicit image or message on their phone. The story has really opened up a debate on whether sexting is bad for kids and what parents and teachers should do about it.
I think it's a really flawed study in lots of ways. But when you break this down, it's 1 in 4, which is, to be honest, lower than I would imagine it to be. And this report says that it's older teens are more likely to do this. So, of course, any parent would be alarmed if their 13-year-old was sending or receiving sex messages.
Right.
But actually, in a lot of cases, what this study is talking about are teenagers who are 16, 17, 18, above the age of consent, who are in relationships, sending a sex message to someone they may well have had an actual sexual relationship with anyway. So
which I'm not okay with as a parent. You know, 15, 16, that doesn't
16, 17 or 18?
That doesn't give me peace at all if that 1 in 4 happens to be my child, because the fact is, sex can lead to so much more, especially when it's forwarded without one's consent, which a large portion, in my opinion.
No, but that's a different category. Would you have a problem with if you had a 17-year-old and they were in a relationship and they've been in a relationship, say, 2 years, sent a sex message to their partner? You'd have a problem with that?
I absolutely would, because it's not safe. Once it's out there, and unfortunately, we live in a world where pictures and images are transmitted and then they end up somewhere else, and sex tapes happen, and you know, harassment does happen. That's why the conversation needs to be had at home, really. Parents, talk about what sexting is, the consequences of sexting, and whatever moral compass you have in your home, enforce that.
Yeah, right? That was it. Exactly. Have that conversation, because that was a much more fiery conversation than I thought it was going to be. I enjoyed it.
You never know what's going to happen on Top 30.
Choose your moral compass. This one, this one. We'll be right back.
In today's Hometown Stories from Fox 13 Tampa Bay, 57-year-old Martin Ellis starts most days with a run, but it wasn't always that way.
The most that I ever remember seeing on the scales was 305. That was a rough day.
So last year, Martin had robotic gastric sleeve surgery. That, along with his daily runs, have helped him lose a total of 85 pounds. And to celebrate, he competed in last weekend's Gasparilla Distance Classic, running the 5K, 8K, 15K, and half marathon, a total of 30 miles. Our next story from Fox 29 Philadelphia. Pastor Donnie Davis bought a campground with the hopes of helping veterans in need. He called it Operation Safe Haven.
We've been able to build our first 3 houses and have our first resident living in right now.
Himself a veteran who suffers from PTSD, he hopes the peaceful grounds will help others dealing with the same affliction. And thanks to his efforts, veterans in need can live in these micro homes for free. Our final story from Fox 10 Phoenix. The Skate Rising program is providing girls with lessons both on and off the board, and they are impressive. With volunteers like professional skateboarder Natalie Doss giving instruction, the young women have the confidence to try new moves as well as participate in community service projects.
It's good to have these girls learn empowerment through skateboarding, but yet paying it forward and doing the service community project.
The lessons are free and open to all girls ages 4 to 18. Welcome back. Let's check in with Elizabeth Wagmeister for this week's Page 6 Fix. Elizabeth, what are you working on this week?
Well, Kristin, it looks like Kim and Kanye are having a family feud. Well, sort of. The couple actually filmed an episode of the show Family Feud West versus the Kardashians, but sources say it was originally supposed to be the Hiltons versus the Kardashians, but they felt it was too thirsty for them. I, for one, cannot wait to see this. And another family just got a little bigger. Robin Thicke and his girlfriend April Love Geary just welcomed a baby girl into the world. They announced the arrival of Mia on social media. Thicke can be seen cradling his newborn daughter with the caption, "Thank you God and April Love." And the happy news continues with Emily Ratajkowski. The model surprised everyone this weekend by heading to the courthouse and marrying her new boyfriend. The couple was first spotted together making out just on Valentine's Day, but when they started dating is still unclear. Either way, congrats guys. And that's it for this week's Page 6 Fix. See you next time.
Thanks, Elizabeth. For more news and gossip, watch Page 6 TV weekdays. Check your local listings. Now some sports news to talk about. An NBA star is opening up about his battle with depression and anxiety in hopes of informing others about the mental conditions. DeMar DeRozan is a 4-time NBA All-Star who plays for the Toronto Raptors. He spoke to a Toronto newspaper saying no matter how successful he is, the anxiety and depression still get the best of him, and it feels like the whole world is on top of him. DeRozan wants to make sure people don't judge others living with mental illness, saying everyone is human and you never know what another person is going through. He credits his mom and current wife and kids for helping him and encourages everyone dealing with mental illness to find people in their life who can help them through the tough times. You know, cool story. It's always good to see professional athletes using their platform for issues outside of the world, I suppose.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. Yeah, it's a very good idea. The country of Norway is preparing for global disaster, but in an unusual way. Inside an abandoned coal mine, inside a mountain, on a remote island, seeds for crops from all over the world are stored in the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. It is meant to protect the entire world's food supply in the event that crops are wiped out by climate change, famine, or other disasters, they can be regrown from those samples. And the seeds are stored at -18 degrees Celsius. The vault is so cold that if it lost power, it would stay frozen for 200 years. This week, samples of 76,000 crops were deposited there, bringing the total number stored to over 1 million. Norway has also announced it will spend more than $12.5 million to upgrade the vault. Unseasonably warm temperatures last year caused frost to melt and flood the entry tunnel. The vault will get a new entrance, as well as new buildings to house electrical equipment. The plan has already saved some crops from extinction, which in the event of a global disaster will save humans from extinction.
And that's always a good thing.
From a point of view.
An iconic liquor brand is trying to appeal to more women. A limited edition run of Johnnie Walker Scotch will replace the bottle's famous logo of a man sporting a top hat and cane with a woman. It will carry the name Jane Walker. Johnnie Walker is owned by liquor giant Diageo. The company says for every bottle made, it will donate $1 to organizations that support women, like Monumental Women and She Should Run. A spokesperson said Johnnie Walker is proud to take this next step forward by introducing Jane Walker as another symbol of the brand's commitment to progress. But not everyone is convinced. One spirits expert told Forbes, women don't want to be separated into this kind of silo. The Jane Walker bottles will launch in March to coincide with Women's History Month as well as International Women's Day.
I think there's nothing wrong with companies launching new products and getting PR and making money. It's always a bit annoying when they sort of claim that it's somehow noble or built off the back of women's progress.
Well, I don't think anything they do could make me like Scotch. I'm just not a Scotch drinker.
No, that's because Scotch tastes like petrol. We'll be right back.
Is your old mattress keeping you up at night? They flatten out and become less comfortable over time, and buying a new one can be really expensive. Which is why we've got today's top 30 solution, a bamboo mattress topper at a special 30 to 60% discount. You can find a higher level of comfort and get a better night's sleep without spending hundreds of dollars. The super soft bamboo mattress topper is hypoallergenic, keeps your bed fresh, absorbs moisture, and regulates temperature. Just a little more shut-eye can improve your memory and help you live longer. The bamboo mattress topper retails for $99.99, but today you can buy it for just $39.99 to $69.99, depending on the size. That's a 30 to 60% discount. You can get this right now at luluway.com while they last.
Canada has set aside $1 billion in funding to fight cybercrime. According to details of the federal budget released by the government, the majority of the money will go towards supplementing Canada's 2010 National Cybersecurity Strategy. As cybercrime issues continue to grow in the country, the money will finance efforts to combat them and strengthen the military's cybersecurity capabilities, as well as training what they call cybersecurity warriors. There's also talk of funding being put forth to protect the 2019 elections from foreign interference after seeing what happened during the 2016 presidential election in the United States. The bottom line is that cyber attacks have become a real threat, especially over the last 3 years, and it only makes sense to boost cybersecurity.
Celebrities, they're just like us. Well, at least some of the time. Jason Matheson, host of The Jason Show on Fox 9 in Minneapolis, tells us more. Jason?
Hey, Kristin. Oprah Winfrey is out promoting her brand new movie, Disney's A Wrinkle in Time. And, you know, the red carpet interviews, sometimes they always say the same stuff, but Oprah said something kind of interesting. She revealed that she still doesn't know how to pump gas, or I should say she used to and forgot how. But the one thing that she does know how to do, and she does often, go to Starbucks, make a little bucks of the star run. And she said recently she was in there and a barista, who was obviously pretty young, asked her what her name was, because, you know, they put it on the cup. Oprah said Oprah, and the young lady responded, "How do you spell that?" Yeah, how do you spell Oprah? It's very sad that there's a whole generation that never had the joy of watching Oprah at 4 p.m. Kristin?
Well, I'm sure that barista must have been mortified later. Thanks, Jason. Women are striving for equality in Hollywood, but it turns out they had fewer leading roles in 2017 than the year before. San Diego State researchers released their annual It's a Man's World report. It shows the number of female lead roles in the top 100 grossing films of 2017 was just 24%, down 5% from the year before. Minority women did show increases in their roles, but just barely. Black females were up to 16%. Latinas and Asian females were up to 7% each. You can see the increase from the year before. There are a few highly anticipated female-led releases like A Wrinkle in Time and Tomb Raider set for this year, so we'll have to wait and see if that helps turn these numbers around. Hey Richard, what's coming up on our next show?
Kristin, we're talking about unfair mortgages. A new lawsuit accuses one bank of discriminating against minorities, and the unlikely origins of one of America's most popular snacks, Top 30. Also covers more of the day's stories live on Facebook daily, 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. It's all coming up on the next Top 30.